I want to talk about something that gets no coverage from the Western media, and that is how people in Shanghai, I mean, people in China in general, people in Shanghai in particular, have been coming together to sort of brave this storm, and where things, it's not some just like paternalistic, the government is like telling you to do XYZ, giving you X, Y, and Z. It's like there are people I've been seeing it on social media, people who are coming together and trying to figure out how to uh, how to live through this lockdown. Do you have any examples or anything you want to share about how people are doing that? Anything personally that you've experienced in terms of the solidarity that people are showing in the face of this Omicron outbreak?
Well, I want to talk about one of the ways people are coming together. I mean, obviously, people can't literally come together because we're in lockdown, but you will obviously have seen this video that went viral in the West of people screaming out in a big apartment complex, venting their frustrations. That is actually, one of the ways people have been coming together. Apart from screaming, which is obviously people are frustrated, people are not happy being in lockdown, that is like a communal kind of pressure release. For me, watching that video, I didn't see it as anything scary or whatever the West saw it as. I saw it as, that's really cool, But there's other ways people have come together to vent, which is, having loud concerts, singing, KTV. There was a guy who took his drum set out on his balcony and just thrashed out a piece, and everyone was shining torches on him like a concert and, screaming out like, whoa, yeah, this is so cool. People come together and do singing, like just here. My complex is quite a small one, so it's only 6 floors high. Across the road, there's a public car park which has a man staying there, manning it through the whole lockdown. He has a portable speaker, so he does KTV in the afternoons. He's not a good singer, but that's fine. But people on this side of my building will hang out the window, and every time he finishes a song, everyone's like clapping, like, yeah, go uncle, go uncle. So it's like, this really warm feeling. Also, people coming together in WeChat groups. Obviously, all of the compounds have WeChat groups with hundreds of members who are just talking. Some people are bored, some people are extroverted. For me, I'm quite lucky. As an introvert, I don't really need a lot of social interaction, but some people do. So a lot of people are, chatting online on WeChat with who were before complete strangers. We have a group in our compound which is just for Tuan Go, the group buying. There's about 500 people there. Some people started chatting in there about things that weren't really to do with the group buying. So the organizers were like, you guys, you can't do that here. We need to save this for, buying food. So they created a new group, which about 300 people moved over to, where people were just chatting all the time. Like every time I check, there's like hundreds of new messages. I can't even keep up. So people are really using this opportunity to come together as one, get to know their neighbors, albeit online, neighbors that they hadn't really met before. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I've lived here for 5 years, and I've had more interaction with my neighbors in the last couple of weeks online than I have in the whole 5 years. So definitely people are coming together, getting through it. We see this as like a joint effort, despite what you see online, which is on Western media, which is this picture of Shanghai falling apart, people starving, people rising up. That is not the image. That is not the what we're seeing on the ground. What we're seeing on the ground is people getting over it together. It's not fun. People are frustrated. People are unhappy, but we're getting through it together as one. And it's seen as kind of like a public duty. I don't know. In East Asia, a lot of people may not realize that it's very much a collective culture here as opposed to individualist. So yeah, that collective I think is really shining, at least online during this lockdown.
Right. And I remember when the initial outbreak, or at least it was announced, I think it was spreading probably a lot longer than when it was announced here in New York. But I just remember the reactions because I'm out here in the city, New York City. I remember the reactions of people. I mean, the lack of social solidarity, the lack of trust in government, and also the lack of trust in
Mm.
each other caused this intense hoarding, right? So what you had was basically entire each and every neighborhood, especially in the centers of the city, just kind of just going through the grocery stores and putting as much stuff as they could in them, stuff that probably wouldn't even need, right?
Yeah.
But just putting it all in, right?
Mm.
Because it was like, oh my God, the hurricane is here and we need to just shut in, right?
Yeah.
And that almost speaks, I mean, that does speak to this just lack of trust that you'll be taken care of, that others will take care of you. And I think the what you talk about in terms of social solidarity in China is, I think, so important to hear, because you'll never
Mm.
hear it in the Western media. You'll never hear that, yeah, people have tools. I mean, WeChat. I'm on WeChat. And I'm just amazed by like the groups and just like how big they
Yeah.
are. And I mean, the food culture there is crazy. I mean,
Mm.
food is very important in China. So I
Right.
don't, if there was real if there was real intense hunger going on, I don't think I don't think it could be held to the realm of claims. I think we would see pretty quickly a lot
Right.
of open public anger, because yeah, food culture is huge there. And I mean, yeah, this notion of solidarity. I mean, these are just basic things we can learn from, right? It's not a matter of the government or this. I mean, I think it is a reflection of the system in China. It is a reflection of both the culture, the politics, the economics in China, which facilitates that. But it's also just like this human to human, this interaction, this like breaking through the alienation, which we can all learn from, because some of that actually sows the seeds of making things better where I am, right? If you can't help your neighbor, if you can't come together as a community, if you can't organize people on the basis of where you are, it's going to be very hard for you to change things en masse. And it seems like in China, every single time there's been an outbreak, you get these stories from people who are there, but you
Mm.
never hear it in the media because they don't want to tell you about it,
Mm.
because it's just another hole the uh, in the anti-China narrative, which can be easily exposed if you just talk to someone who is there, or talk to someone who isn't completely bought into it and ready to exploit this highly lucrative campaign,
Right.
this campaign of war. Um, but yeah, so I don't any other reactions, anything that we've missed so far about this experience of lockdown?
No, I just wanted to say, like you said, if people in the West covered these stories, these more human interest stories, or showed Chinese people as real people who think, who feel, who have the same desires and goals and fears as everyone else, it would really be a chink in the armor, of the Western narrative about China. I don't think they could allow that, to be honest. I think, but the funny thing is, it's like in the Western media, Chinese people are painted as, both helpless, brainwashed, and also China's painted as this huge threat. So it's like I just can't understand which one it is. But I think in terms of people coming together as well, I just want to mention the Chinese government really follows online comments and discussions, largely using AI, I think, on public platforms to really see how the people feel and what they're concerned about, what they're angry about, which is something a lot of people in the West don't realize, because of course, the average Western person thinks, there's no Facebook, Twitter, YouTube in China, so that means there's no online spaces. Chinese online spaces, as you know, Danny, they're huge. Like there's thousands of different apps, dozens and dozens of different apps that are really, really popular. And the government really follows what people are concerned about, including, there's an example, in the start of this outbreak here in Shanghai, children who tested positive for COVID and had to go into central quarantine were separated from their parents if their parents didn't test positive as well, because according to China's law on infectious diseases, anyone who has an infectious disease needs to be separated. But there was a huge uproar online, not just in the West, but also in China. People were really shocked that children would be separated from their parents. So very quickly, the Shanghai government overrode that national law and now allows negative parents to accompany their COVID positive children into central quarantine. So it's just an example of, the power, the people power that we see here in China, which is something, you know, that you would obviously, like you were saying, never see covered in Western media, because that would kind of dent this image they're portraying of China, which is, you know, absolutely not the China that I see living here and having lived here for nearly 10 years.